company dedicated to enhancing leaders' ability to harness and optimize trust as a strategic business asset. So, Anthony, I'd love to talk about the types of trust today. That'd be a good subject.
I think so, yeah. Very meaningful.
Very meaningful. And we like to say that we can make ourselves vulnerable to the influence of nearly anything. But our willingness to do so is really in proportion to the strength of our interests. So let's unpack that a little bit. Influence of nearly anything.
Yeah, that's interesting. There's lots of different things that we experience in life. Could be, like you said, anything. And so let's remind our viewers of the definition of trust. So willful vulnerability motivated by positive expectations. And so a type of trust as opposed to a form of trust, right? A type of trust, a type just is defined as a discrete group that shares some similar characteristics. And so we can talk about some of those general types of trust that we usually think about when we're making ourselves vulnerable to something else. A lot of times we'll think of like other humans, right?
Yeah,
social trust.
sure.
So, but there's lots of other kinds as well.
Organizational trust or cultural trust.
Yeah,
What are some others?
All about what's in your mind, though. That's the key. It's like what is in your mind at the moment that you're choosing to make yourself willfully vulnerable in your mind to something else. What is that thing, or how much is it that thing versus this other thing? It could be combinations of things.
Yeah, I mean, we could even just get really nitty gritty and think about every morning when you wake up, you got to trust that, the floor is going to hold you.
It's true, but we do. Most people aren't wondering, is it going to hold? Yeah. We just jump out of bed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what are some other things you think that we can trust?
Yeah, I mean, I think about even I have to trust my boots these days as I'm walking out in the snow, and are they going to hold me on the ice? And trusting sort of the equipment that I use.
Well, and that makes you make choices on footwear, high heels versus boots, based on the environment that you're in, the conditions. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think about as I, go out and walk the dog, the environments that I go in, and thinking, oh, do I trust that I should go down this path? How many plants are there? Is there poison ivy down there? Do I really trust that path, or is that really a path I should avoid?
Mm-hmm.
So
different calculations, but there's also affect involved, right? The beauty of it, right? The experience that I think I'm going to have if I make that choice to make myself vulnerable, to go down that path, fork in the road versus that path.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then
beautiful one.
Yeah.
Yeah. What other types of trust do you think about?
I have animals in the home, and so I'm trusting animals periodically, and so that's interesting. We have different rules in the house about animals. They don't know what the rules are for the most part, but we do. And so we try to adhere to those rules for safety purposes most often, for everybody, for the animals and for us. So animals are things, so just like things in our environment, our technology. What are different, think about AI, trusting AI. What are kind of technology in the business environment are we trusting on a daily basis?
Yeah, so true. So true. And if I were to take this outside of just sort of my own personal, we're making choices all the time about if I'm going to trust or not, which we don't necessarily think about. And fortunately, we don't have to think about because that would be every step of the way that you're making a decision. That would be kind of exhausting.
Yeah.
But I think, similarly, that doesn't that happen if we take this into a work environment and thinking about every sort of conversation we have, are we trusting that person or that group or that organization that I'm willing to be vulnerable and willing to share information or willing to put myself out there and take a chance on something? That happens socially, that happens organizationally. Is that a type of trust as well?
Yeah, it happens in the classroom as well. I think about in college classrooms, in a new classroom full of strangers, are you willing to speak up? If you have an opinion, are you willing to speak up? That's important. And a lot of people would say no. they want someone else to be the first adopter, the first person to
Mm.
speak up, and I'll be the second, but I don't want to be the first.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So it kind of, feels like it's when we talk about the types of trust, it's really the degree to which someone's willing to have that other thing, that other experience shape them. Are they willing, or are they going to play it safe and protect? I wonder if we could maybe go into an example that everybody might, experience on a daily basis, and talk about.
Mm-hmm.
How about as we're driving and you pull up to a four-way lighted intersection?
Yeah,
Yeah, traffic
every
light.
day, a couple of times a day.
Yeah. So let's unpack that one. What are we thinking when we pull up there? We're probably not thinking about anything to do with trust. We're thinking about what way do I want to go? Am I on time? Where do I need to go? What's next?
A lot
Are
of people where I live, I'm not sure they're thinking about their driving at all. Their mind is totally somewhere else. But what they should be thinking about probably is safety. Like what are some interests that I have here? Like, oh yeah, I want to get somewhere on time. I want to get there safely. I want to have comfort. I want to enjoy myself. So maybe I have the music turned on, but then that music could be a distraction and offset safety. Maybe there's trade-offs involved. Maybe I'm on my phone. Maybe it's in my hand. Maybe it's on a hands-free set. Maybe it's put away in my wallet, my purse, so I don't see it. Yeah, so different things that are activities, that kind of the schemas of life, kind of our processes that we walk through in a particular case of something, in a case of lighted traffic intersection.
Yeah.
So how do we behave? What do we do? How do we feel?
Where I live, interestingly, we just had everyone sort of put a pause on that and really probably think a little bit more about how they're driving because they implemented a new roundabout.
Mm-hmm.
And it really caused people to sort of think, do I know the rules of the road and how does this work? And do I trust other drivers to know the rules of the road?
Mm-hmm.
Because in a roundabout, as you know, you really do need to be trusting that people are understanding when it's their turn and when it's not. So yeah, again, trust. And some people have decided I'm not even going to take that route so I can avoid the roundabout because I really don't trust that people know what they're doing.
Well, that could sound too. And that's your behavior. You're changing your routines, you're changing your behavior, and it affects other things in life as well when you do that. So trust is ubiquitous. It is all around us.
All around us.
How willing are we to make ourselves vulnerable, and to what entities, in what contexts? There's thousands of situations we run into every day where we have to make the choice. But in the United States, a lot of our trust situations are pretty well scripted out, and things behave as you would expect they would. Mm-hmm. So that helps. And a lot of times we trust our institutions to make sure that occurs. So in that lighted intersection you mentioned, how much am I trusting the traffic engineer who built and designed, the transportation and traffic engineer who designed the intersection? Mm-hmm. For timing and flow versus the person who is holding their phone and looking at it that's right across from me and stopped there before me but isn't going. Mm-hmm. Hey, it's a green light. Come on, buddy.
Right.
Maybe weather conditions. My goodness, so many things. The road material. Who built this? So many different things that we could think about. Maybe there's cyclists on the road. Do we see them? Are they there? Pedestrians? Are there sidewalks? Or are they on the road?
Yeah.
Many things. Yeah.
So many things that we process that we probably don't even think about. But again, we're making a very quick decision on how much we trust or don't trust. Mm-hmm. And often we may not know exactly, are we thinking about the engineer who built this, or are we just thinking about the people that are driving on it, our neighbors, our friends, our community. Mm-hmm. But I wonder, as we talk about community and sort of branching this out, to think about what would be an example where this happens, and we think about how trust plays a role. There's a lot of mergers happening these days in mm-hmm. business.
Yeah.
Big one, T-Mobile and US Cellular.
That's right.
How does trust play out in that? I mean, where does trust play a role?
Yeah, mergers are very interesting because you wonder, was that really a merger or was it actually an acquisition? Where's the power dynamics here? How's the power? Is this a 50-50? And how do you weigh that? How do you measure that? And that's what the leaders are thinking too, as they think about merging and then enter into merger, I mean, it's a new experience. They don't have all the information that they want about the other organization. They're getting some, but it's a sensitive dance that they're doing back and forth of requesting information and receiving information. When you receive information, how well do you trust that information to be accurate and specific enough?
Yeah, I think people were probably questioning, how do I get out what I want of this merger?
Mhm.
How transparent do I want to be, or how transparent are they going to be? Which relates to then how much I trust and how much I have to think about what I say and share versus being able to be candid. So what are the trade-offs there in terms of if you're optimizing trust in a merger versus not?
Yeah, and you think in business, a lot of times, a lot of the leaders are going to be more critical and not offer trust without verification or without some information or strong reasoning. In business, that makes sense. But in different situations, you might have somebody highly trusting leader and then a much more critical leader that are engaging in a partnership. And the expectations are missed. And one gives all sorts of trust and the other is like, why are you doing that? Or could take advantage of that because they are initially so generalized trusting. Their trustiness is high. And so, but in business, most of the time I'd say it's, you can expect that both sides will be critical and want verification and want data, maybe want a third party and their lawyers involved to make sure that the process is fair. So fairness is one of those things that you're considering, predictable and reliable. So those are the three things in the literature that we think about that we are calculating when we're thinking about an organization or an institution compared to a person. So like a person, we're thinking ability, benevolence, and integrity. So that's a little bit
And what
different.
are the three again for an organization? We think about fairness.
Yeah, fairness and predictability and reliability.
Yeah.
Predictability doesn't have to mean it's positive. It could be good or bad. At least I know it's going to happen. Expectations being met, positive or negative. Yeah.
And I'm always drawn back to something that Warren Buffett, speaks about in Berkshire Hathaway, and in terms of the companies that he buys and how quickly he can get to a merger or acquisition because of the level of trust that he has in. Now, Warren Buffett isn't Warren Buffett and accomplish what he's accomplished without doing his due diligence. But it feels like a trade-off here in terms of, do you enter with a lens of trust and looking to verify things, but certainly move forward quickly? Or do you enter with a lens of distrust and maybe perhaps slow things down a bit doing the due diligence? I don't know. Does that, how do you react to that?
Yeah, leaders have different strategies. And I think it comes out of their leadership style and personality. It flows at what feels best. Who am I at my best? I want to be at my best when I'm leading in a merger. And so I want to lean into who I am at my best. And so they're going to lean into that, what makes them feel comfortable and highly qualified and able. Their capacities are maximized to get the best deal or merger outcome that they're looking for, that they're responsible for. So it can depend on leaders' personalities and leadership styles meshing well or not for the outcome. Yeah.
Yeah. So you think about T-Mobile and US Cellular, our example, and how they likely came together to be more competitive, right? They want to join forces so they can be a bigger player amongst AT&T and Verizon and some of the other players.
Yep.
But the success rate on mergers is fairly low, and perhaps this idea of how you come to the table and get started with the merger is part of whether that is predicting of success or not.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, this is an excellent start to a conversation about types of trust. I want our listeners, viewers to engage with that. So definitely engage with us on that through comments, questions. Let us know what you think your experiences have been in different situations where you're trusting something else. And so we appreciate you being here, and thank you so much. Like and subscribe to our podcast, and we look forward to talking with you next time.